You're watching Pittsburgh Steelers Talk. I am Tom Downey. And before we get into our rumors on today's show, we have a company-wide like challenge. Most likes on any particular channel wins. They're all kind of bunched up together. Here are the other four Steelers Talk is competing against. And we're last, behind the Browns and that loser Matthew Peterson, the Seahawks, the Chiefs, and the in-state rival Philadelphia. Let's get this changed. Like the video so we can win this race, and I get a little bit of a bonus as well. So like the video right now. Today's Steelers Talk video is presented by Aura, the all-in-one digital safety tool to help keep your information, both identity and financial, safe and from online hackers. You get a free 14-day trial when you head over to aura.com/chatsports. As I'm sure everyone knows, Minkah Fitzpatrick got the bag, which would now put Diontae Johnson in position to get paid if the Steelers choose to go that route. He is caught next in line, quote unquote. Now, the receiver market has never been more expensive. Thanks, Jacksonville, for overpaying Christian Kirk. For Johnson, I think he's going to approach the $20 million price tag, which means if this deal goes 5 years, we're talking $100 million. Albert Breer, before Minkah Fitzpatrick got paid like a day before, wrote this. I think it's still pretty darn relevant. I guess the Steelers will pay Minkah before Diontae Johnson. Check mark. And given where receiver prices have gone, I think there's a decent chance Johnson will wind up betting on himself and going to the market next year rather than the sort of deal Pittsburgh would see as suitable for him. Now, Johnson has shown growth each and every year from a statistical standpoint. Outside of the dropsies he had in 2020, he actually didn't have very many drops last year. You want a better average, but this is the exact type of consistent, steady growth you want to see out of a young wide receiver. Now, in terms of what a deal could end up looking like from a contract perspective, I think this is roughly the range for Diontae Johnson. He's a better player than Christian Kirk. I have no doubts about that. Way more productive, by the way, on top of that. Kirk got $18 million from Jacksonville. If the Steelers aren't going to offer that, Johnson's not going to accept. That's your baseline. Other deals that are relevant: Mike Williams, $20 million a year. Chris Godwin, $20 million. DJ Moore, $20.63. A.J. Brown's your max at $25, and I am not paying A.J. Brown that amount of money. I know there was a report that Johnson would take $17 million. I never bought that. If it's true, do it right now. That is well below market value for a player of Johnson's caliber. I think $20 million might be a little bit more in the range, although I also don't know just how much it would change unless Johnson really does ball out this year, which is a different conversation. So what do you think? Should the Steelers extend and pay Diontae Johnson? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y for yes or N for no. I don't think there's a deal done by week one. I hope I'm wrong on that because I am a pro Diontae Johnson player, but it's also not a lock they won't pay him. I do think there is a chance a deal gets done, but I think it's maybe 40%-ish, 30% the deal gets done for Johnson in Pittsburgh. I will say new GM Omar Khan means there are some changes for the organization, and he was aggressive in paying Minkah. Could he be consistently aggressive for Diontae Johnson? You know, we'll wait and see. The wide receiver market is absolutely skyrocketing. And one reason why I think Pittsburgh might be a bit hesitant to pay Diontae Johnson is they have options now at wide receiver. And it probably does end up being you either pay Johnson or Chase Claypool, one of those guys at most. Even though this team has invested next to nothing on the wide receiver or on the offense side of the ball from a money perspective right now, you could probably enter next year with Claypool, Pickens, Calvin, Austin. Claypool, Pickens on the outside, Austin at slot. And if Claypool and Pickens take a step forward, you probably feel just fine about that wide receiver room. Or you go with the proven number one guy in Diontae Johnson. So they don't have to pay him. I don't think they're desperate. It's a matter of do they want to. We'll find out that in the not too distant future. Aura offers identity theft protection. Keep your identity safe and secure with extensive monitoring of your personal info. You get a free 14-day trial on their all-in-one tool that offers financial fraud protection, identity theft protection, and complete online and device security when you head over to aura.com/chatsports. You can cancel that free trial at any time. So there's really no reason not to make sure your information is safe. I'll put the link, aura.com/chatsports, in both the comment section and in the description of today's video. Next up, could the Steelers trade Mason Rudolph? The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette says they're open to doing so, and this is a conversation we've had before. Rudolph faces, in reality, an almost impossible path to move up beyond the depth chart without injuries because Trubisky's clearly quarterback one right now, and Kenny Pickett, whether it's now, in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, he will be the starter at some point because he's a first-round pick. Now, I do wonder what the actual asking price will end up being, or at least the settling price for Mason Rudolph, who, he's not a bum, but he's a backup at this point. Here's what Ray Fittipaldo, I hope I pronounced that last name correctly, recently said. They're probably waiting for a fifth, but I think if the middle of August, end of August rolls around, and they're not getting that type of, or those types of offers, I think they would be more than happy to get a sixth-round pick for him. Now, the Steelers did get a fifth-round pick for Joshua Dobbs, which was an absolute steal and a finesse by a pretty smart organization. So with that in mind, what is the lowest pick you would take in a trade for Mason Rudolph? I think for a third-round pick who hasn't done much, it should be pretty low. But I want to hear from you. What's the lowest pick you take for Mason Rudolph? Although he was highly productive in college, I think we have enough of a sample size right now to know that Mason is not going to be a starter and is maybe just a league average backup. That's not worth that much when you've also got to pay him a pretty fair backup salary. It's not like you're getting Gardner Minshew on the cheap and from a contract perspective, which is what the Eagles did, and we saw how little he went for. I don't think Mason Rudolph is worth a fifth-round pick. I don't. I don't think he's that caliber of quarterback. I think he borders on a bit too close to being a Jag from that standpoint. Not that he's terrible, but he's nothing special. Now, I do think there are some teams who could use an upgrade at the backup quarterback spot. Jacksonville, since, well, you know, they always looked for backup QBs. Denver has Brett Rippon as their backup right now. Chicago has Trevor Siemian. The Lions have David Blough. Terrible last name for a quarterback, but by the way. Minnesota has Sean Mannion, who sucks, and the Rams have John Wolford. So those teams actually could be decent fits for if they want to add a more proven veteran backup for a 6th or 7th round pick. Is it David Blough for the Lions? Probably, but it's more fun to say Blough. Now, if you want to subscribe for more free Steelers videos, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. Daily videos here on Steelers Talk covering everything going on around the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button right now. One more interesting trade rumor here on Tyron Smith. Bleacher Report has suggested the Steelers trade a third-round pick for Tyron Smith. Although injury-prone, Smith is a damn good football player still when he's actually healthy, and from a contract perspective, it's been one of the best deals the Cowboys have done. Still pretty affordable if the Steelers were to trade for him. This would, in theory, buy time for Dan Moore to develop, and you would also assume that Tyron Smith misses at least a couple of games because he always does. I would argue Smith, when healthy, is by a pretty big margin, would be the best offensive lineman on this team, with apologies to James Daniels, who for me is runner-up there. You would feel a lot better about your offensive line group when everyone's healthy if you had Tyron Smith on your team. So would you trade for him? Type in T for trade, or you can type in P for pass. Sound off for me in the comments section. Now, the number one problem the Steelers would face is this. Tyron Smith is not healthy anymore. His back, his neck, his other stuff have added up pretty heavily. 6 missed games last year, 14 with a back issue in 2020. The previous 4 years, he missed 3 games every single season. You are not going to get a healthy Tyron Smith. When he is out there, however, you've got a premier player. And this is kind of the problem you run into. Why would the Cowboys, who are the NFC East favorites, why would they trade away their franchise left tackle if he was healthy? They wouldn't. So you've got this weird conundrum of, if you can get him, is it because he's broken down and not going to be healthy? That was kind of the Lyle Collins issue for the Cowboys and the Bengals. And if he is healthy, is a third-round pick really enough to get a premier left tackle who is an upgrade, make no mistake, over Dan Moore? That's the weird conversation. I actually think it makes more sense for Pittsburgh to have interest than it does for the Cowboys because they're not a rebuilding team. I'm open to the idea of adding a left tackle out there to acquire some help and buy time for Dan Moore. I just don't know if Tyron Smith in Dallas is the logical fit there in the end. But if Pittsburgh does make a trade, you know that we will break it down. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe today.